Okay, so if you're trying to keep up with the large language model space right now, you're probably feeling that information overload. I mean, it feels like every single week there's some new model, a new feature, a tweet storm from a CEO. It's just noise. And, in all that noise, it's really easy to just focus on the big names everyone knows, like OpenAI, maybe Anthropic, and you completely miss the players who are, well, quietly building the actual mission critical stuff, the infrastructure that's actually running things behind the scenes. So our mission today is to cut through some of that. We're doing a deep dive into Cohere. That's the company our sources pretty much universally describe as the enterprise-first LLM provider. We want to figure out their unique strategy, their tech strengths, and, how exactly they stack up against the giants.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about Cohere is their background, their pedigree.
Mm.
This isn't some flash-in-the-pan startup. It was founded back in 2019 by some pretty key figures, Aidan Gomez, for instance.
Right. The attention is all you need paper co-author.
Exactly. That paper basically rewrote the rules for AI models. So they have deep roots in the core technology.
And that foundational knowledge, well, it's clearly pulled in some serious money. I mean, the latest funding round pushed Cohere to a $6.8 billion valuation. That was just this year, 2025.
Mhm.
And when you see names like AMD and NVIDIA getting involved as investors, that tells you something. It's not just about cash. It's a signal that they're building, real infrastructure that needs serious hardware, not just clever code.
That's right. And that capital is fueling a very specific strategy. They are laser focused on building models and tools really optimized for enterprise needs.
Okay.
So that means a big emphasis on things like security, data residency, where the data actually lives, and multilingual capabilities too.
Right. That definitely sounds like a company thinking B2B first, not chasing viral consumer hits. Okay, let's really unpack that strategy. I mean, if a big company can already get a powerful model through an API from, say, OpenAI, what does Cohere actually deliver that makes businesses choose them?
Well, I think it boils down to a few things. Control, context, and crucially, the quality of the answer you get back. Their main model family is the Command series. You've got Command R and the more powerful Command R Plus Wagon.
Okay.
And these are really built for those complex enterprise jobs, advanced chat, building smart agents, and maybe most importantly, sophisticated retrieval-augmented generation, RAG pipelines.
RA, yeah, we hear that acronym all the time. And the specs on Command R plus A, they seem pretty competitive, especially for handling like large business documents. The sources mention it supports up to around 128,000 tokens of context, but specifically on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OCI.
Yes, and that OCI bit is really important. It's a key proof point.
How so?
Well, the fact that they engineered the model to hit that context length specifically within a deep, high compliance enterprise cloud like Oracle, it shows they aren't just building generic models off in a lab somewhere. They're tailoring them for those regulated customers who live on platforms like OCI.
Got it. But you're saying the core difference isn't just the LLM model itself, it's the plumbing around it. You mentioned ARA quality needing more than just the base model.
Exactly right. And this is where their tooling really sets them apart, I think.
Yeah.
Cohere doesn't just give you the brain, the LLM. They provide the whole system around it, specifically these non-LLM tools called embed and re-rank.
Okay, embed and re-rank, that sounds pretty technical. Can you give us an analogy? Why are those critical for a company?
Sure. Think of that RGOG pipeline, right? Asking the LLM to answer a question based on your company's huge internal knowledge base. The LLM is like a super knowledgeable intern, but maybe a bit forgetful or easily sidetracked.
Okay, I know that intern.
Ah, right. So RI is the process where the intern quickly reads a relevant document before answering. Embed and re-rank. They're like the super efficient librarian and the perfectly indexed library system. Embed helps find potentially relevant documents, and re-rank makes sure the intern reads the absolute best, most relevant one first, not just something with a matching keyword. Without good re-ranking, your RAG system often gives mediocre or even wrong answers. And for a business, that's just not acceptable.
That makes total sense. So they're tackling that search quality problem head on, the thing that makes a lot of internal LLM projects kind of stumble. And this focus extends globally too, right, with their multilingual work.
Yes, that's the Cohere Lab Zaya initiative. It's their open science project, basically building out multilingual models and datasets. They've even pushed it further with something called Aya Vision, which gets into multimodal stuff, images, and text again, using open weights models.
Why is that important for enterprise?
Well, It directly helps big global companies. They need to deploy AI securely across maybe dozens of languages, places where the big generic English-first models might not perform as well or have the right cultural nuance.
Okay, but let's circle back to security. If I'm, say, a big bank or a healthcare company, what's the one feature, the real non-negotiable differentiator Cohere offers that maybe the others haven't focused on as much? For me, it seems like it has to be deployment flexibility.
You absolutely hit the nail on the head there. That is, I think, the ultimate differentiator for those highly regulated industries because it guarantees data control.
Right.
So while other big providers mostly push their models via public cloud APIs, you send your data to them. Cohere offers three main tiers. There's the public API, sure, but then there's virtual private cloud VPC deployment, and critically, on-prem versions.
And just so we're clear, what does VPC and on-prem actually mean for a company day-to-day?
It means the model, the AI, runs entirely inside the company's own secure environment. Think of it like putting the AI servers and all your sensitive data behind your own digital firewalls.
So the data never leaves their control.
Precisely. Your proprietary information, your customer data, it never goes out to a third-party cloud. This is essential for meeting those strict data residency rules and compliance regulations that big organizations, especially in finance or healthcare, simply cannot compromise on. That control is often the reason they choose Cohere.
And you can really see that playing out in their big partnerships, like the Oracle one, integrating Command R and R Plus into Oracle Fusion apps across, over 100 different workflows. That's not just a press release. That means they're deeply embedded, handling critical business data flows.
It really is proof that the whole enterprise-first strategy is landing. And it's that specialized focus, that plumbing, that forces us to look at the bigger picture. How does Cohere's specific approach actually stack up against the sheer scale and different priorities of OpenAI and Anthropic?
Yeah, let's pivot to that head-to-head comparison. It might help to think about it as like a positioning triad. Define each of the three big players by their core strengths.
Okay, we can do that. So, Cohere, clearly focused on enterprise needs, private deployment options, really strong on RAG and search optimization, and that key OCI partnership is part of their identity now.
Right. Then OpenAI.
OpenAI still leads with the broadest consumer and developer ecosystem. They're pushing the boundaries on multimodality, real-time voice, video interaction with models like GPT-4o and presumably GPT-5. And they have very strong agent capabilities being built out.
Okay, broad reach and cutting-edge features.
Yeah.
And Anthropic.
Anthropic, kind of born from different principles, right?
Yeah.
Their niche is being very safety-centric, all the constitutional AI work, the governance focus. They're also the current leader, clearly, in long context processing. And their coding and agent tools are improving really rapidly, too.
That context length piece,
Yeah.
it feels like a major battleground. It gets really interesting there. And it's a critical number for anyone trying to track this space, isn't it? The sheer amount of data you can stuff into one prompt.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge competitive metric.
So let's just lay out the numbers based on the sources just to see the hierarchy. Cohere's Command R plus dot, we said about 128K tokens on OCI. Solid for big documents, complex tasks.
Right. But Anthropic, right now, they are the context kings. Their standard Claude Sonnet 4 and 4.5 models hit 200K tokens routinely. And they're now offering up to 1 million tokens in beta for certain users.
1 million tokens, wow.
Yeah, I mean, 1 million tokens means you could potentially feed an entire large annual report, maybe a complex legal pace file, into a single prompt. That capability really defines their specific niche right now.
And OpenAI's upcoming GPT-5 model, where does that fit?
The sources suggest it's landing somewhere between around, say, 400K context length. Still very substantial, and likely geared towards enabling more complex reasoning and agent behaviors.
Okay, so Cohere isn't winning purely on the raw context length number, which inevitably brings us to price. For enterprises, cost, especially predictable cost, is always critical.
Absolutely. And if we look at some illustrative API prices, these were from around August 2024, so keep in mind they change. But looking at cost per million tokens, you see some interesting signals.
Lay them out for us.
Okay. OpenAI's GPT-5 is listed at about $1.25 for input tokens, $10 for output tokens. Cohere's Command R Plus is actually a bit higher on the input side, $2.50 and $10 out, though important to note they have other cheaper tiers available too.
And Anthropic.
Anthropic Sonnet 4, among the main tiers listed in our sources, was the priciest, $3 input, $15 output per $1 million tokens.
Okay, so wait. Cohere isn't the cheapest on paper, at least for Command R plus input, and they don't have the absolute longest context window. So if they're slightly pricier than GPT-5 on input, the question isn't just can we afford Cohere, it's more like what hidden cost or risk is Cohere eliminating that justifies maybe paying a bit more on the surface?
And the answer, pretty clearly, seems to be the cost of risk, specifically compliance failure risk and data security risk. Cohere's first-class VPC and, crucially, those on-prem deployment options, they essentially eliminate that massive operational risk for regulated companies. They save businesses, the potential regulatory fines, the reputational damage, and just the headache of navigating complex data residency requirements. While OpenAI and Anthropic are definitely expanding their enterprise features and cloud options, Cohere kind of started there. They built their house on that ground.
They're the incumbents in that specific security and control space for LLMs.
You could say that, yeah.
Okay, so let's synthesize this. What does this all mean for you, the listener, if you're trying to decide which model or platform makes sense for a specific job? Let's try and bucket it by the problem you're trying to solve.
Right. So when should you actively choose Cohere? You pick Cohere when your main priority is building really high-quality RAG pipelines, meaning you need that combination of good re-ranking, specialized embeddings, and decent long context for your internal documents.
Right, so high-quality internal search and question answering.
Yes, exactly. You also choose them if you have absolute strict requirements around privacy or data residency, the VP on-prem thing. If you need predictable spending patterns, maybe through those private deployments, or if you need really solid multilingual coverage, perhaps using their I/O work for specific languages or regions.
Okay, that's Cohere's sweet spot. What problems do the giants OpenAI and Anthropic solve better right now? Where do they fit? Well, you'd likely choose OpenAI if your application needs that cutting-edge multimodal capability to think processing live video feeds or having real-time voice conversations with the AI, or if being plugged into the absolute broadest developer ecosystem with all the plugins, tools, the assistance framework, if that's critical for you, they just have immense reach and developer support.
Makes sense. And Anthropic. Anthropic becomes the obvious choice when you absolutely need that extreme context window, that 200K, potentially up to the 1 million token beta.
Yeah.
Nothing else touches that right now for massive document analysis. Or if your organization puts a huge premium on safety-first governance, the constitutional AI approach, and you're leveraging their rapidly improving coding and agentic capabilities.
Right. So pulling it all together, the core insight really seems to be this. Cohere isn't necessarily trying to win by having the absolute biggest model or the longest context window, although they're competitive. They're succeeding, it seems, by really specializing, by dominating that deployment flexibility, the security angles, and the RG optimization that their target enterprise customers fundamentally require. They're building the secure, reliable plumbing for AI in the enterprise.
Well said. And that leads us to maybe a final thought, something for you, the listener, to kind of mull over based on what we've discussed.
Go for it.
Cohere is doing these two things simultaneously right. On one hand, they have this intense focus on high security, lockdown, enterprise deployments, VPC, on-prem, the OCI partnership. But on the other hand, they run Cohere LabSciA, this major, extensive, quite open research effort focused on open weights, multilingual models.
Interesting tension there.
Exactly. So the question is, what are the long-term implications for the enterprise AI market if Cohere's very open, community-driven research directly fuels their highly private, secure commercial offerings? How does that open science ethos interact with the closed, secure deployment model down the line? It's a fascinating dynamic to watch.
That is definitely something to chew on, the interplay between open research and closed commercial deployment. Excellent. Well, this was a fantastic deep dive into Cohere and the strategic chess game happening in enterprise AI. Thanks for walking us through the sources and breaking it down.
My pleasure. Always interesting stuff.
And thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.